strongly supportive of Senator Morell's bill.
Thank you.
My name is Virginia Sedeth, and I am from Chino, California, and I support this bill.
Thank you.
My name is Lynn Krieger, and I'm just a mom of 5 children, and I support this bill full-heartedly. My children were raised in a Christian home, and yet just the hope that people have shared about, I really believe that if they had that incentive of a credit, that they could have, been able to attend the Christian Release Time and benefit themselves. So thank you for considering this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Wendy Olson, and I support this bill.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Ramirez, and I actually participate in the Release Time program in Chino Hills. One of the greatest things that I do in my retirement is being a part of that. I have always said that there's nothing wrong with learning more about God. After all, sooner or later we all die, and for me, there's an afterlife. And this program is not actually, I don't think it's Christian only based, but to give kids a moral foundation, something that they can look to when they're in their rooms quiet and they're contemplating life and life issues. I mean, the newspaper, I hardly look at the news anymore. It's all bad news. So I'm so happy that the Bible's available, and I pray that more of it is available, and that if it starts in California, maybe it'll catch on in the rest of the United States, because I, for one, know that we do need more of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others in support of the bill? Any others opposed to the bill? I apologize for the little mix-up. I just couldn't see behind you. All right. Any questions or comments from members? Senator Monning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start by thanking Senator Morell for bringing this forward. I appreciated the time you took to meet with me to discuss it. Clearly, your passion and motivation is clear in terms of the benefits you believe would be achieved by this expansion of release time for students. As I indicated to you yesterday, though, unfortunately, I won't be able to support the bill, and I just want to be clear on the record some of my concerns. In my upbringing and in public education, religious education was something that happened not in school or as part of school, but outside of school. And for children who are trying to meet curriculum requirements in a public education, there's nothing in current law that prevents them or their families from pursuing religious education. It can be on a weeknight, it can be on a weekend, it can be Sunday school, it can be a Sabbath school. One of the concerns I have in the expansion of existing release time is the intersection of the use of ADA money, public taxpayer money, to support elective credits for religious study. In my view, it does cross the Establishment Clause and the separation of church and state. Many of those who testified, and again, I admire and respect your contributions to expanding study options. I just personally don't believe it is the province of public education, taxpayer-paid education. I think if some have testified, there are religious private schools. Many of them have very robust scholarship programs. I think it's a little bit artificial and unfair to frame this as the only opportunity for minority children to have access to religious study. The majority of those who referenced religious study referenced Bible study. Our schools are more diverse than ever before. In the assumption that all students in our public schools would seek to pursue Christian education or Christian training is violative of the reality of increased diversity of Muslim students, Hindu students, Buddhists, atheists, etc. But without making those delineations, there is nothing. Our Constitution absolutely protects the right of a family, of an individual, to study and practice the religion of their choice or not to practice any religion. That's what our Constitution protects. and to use public-funded public education to create an avenue of elective coursework in religious study, I think crosses that line. Senator Morell pointed out to me established recognition of release time of 4 hours a month in California. My understanding, that does not include elective credit being afforded. That's one of the areas where this bill, I think, further intrudes into an appropriate separation of church and state. So again, with the greatest respect for the author and for those who have provided very compelling testimonies of their own benefits from access to religious education, there is nothing in current law that prevents any family or any child from pursuing religious education, or if it's a priority for a family, to find private religious instruction that incorporates curriculum study with religious education. Again, there are robust scholarship programs for this. So for those reasons, I will not be supporting the bill today. But again, I appreciate your passion and what you seek to achieve. Thank you.
Senator Mendoza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the comments from our senator. I too also support the separation of church and state, but I do think that in this particular instance, I think that allowing a student to and the parents to decide whether during their elective period, which is they can decide to do anything during the elective period, participate in anything that they wish. I think allowing them that freedom to choose. And they don't have to study the Bible, they can study the Quran. And I appreciate the fact that you actually offer many different opportunities for students to go beyond just Christianity. But I know that it's off-site. I know the gentleman here from South Carolina mentioned the three, whether it be, written consent for the parents off-site, no public funds. I understand. I think another big part of that was the opportunity to learn any religion they want. And I think that's another big component. I don't see it as intrusive just because of the elective, and I do think that I'm sure there's opportunity to provide some sort of credit for those students for taking time to learn something different. Maybe something might be something for the first time if they haven't been able to connect to a certain religion, but if they have, there's something for them to enhance their education. I just want to thank the author for bringing it forward. I know it's kind of difficult because being a school teacher myself, I have a concern with that connection. But I do think that having it offsite, having it during their elective period, I think really offers an opportunity for them to expand their knowledge and their faith, and hopefully pick up good morals. But again, it just we offer our students as many opportunities as they can to be as open-minded and as worldly as they can be. So, Madam Chair, with that, I'll move the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hancock.
Thank you, members. And I do need to say I was going to meet with Senator Morell about this. I wasn't able to do that, but it did spark a very robust discussion in my office, and I thank you for raising the issue and bringing it forward. Let me say, I think there are many ways to deal with ethical and character education in our schools, and I am supportive of efforts to do that. I think the study of comparative religion and of the Bible and other religious literature is very appropriate in a public school setting. I've always been struck by the fact that most of the world's great religions seem to have the same ethical underpinning. And the Ten Commandments, if you will, appears in virtually every one of the world's great religions. I have two concerns with this bill that will not enable me to be supportive of the bill. One is, I really don't see a problem with existing law. You can have release time of 1 full day a week.
Yeah, week, right, 4 times a month.
1 full day a week, 4 days a month. That's a lot of time. That's 20% of the school, the time spent in school. And it seems to me that that should be an adequate amount of time to miss school. And then, I grew up in a religious family. My father was a minister. I went to Sunday school. I went to school with kids who, after school, went to Hebrew school, went to Chinese studies school, where they learned a lot about their ethical and religious traditions. And it seems to me that that is an appropriate decision for parents and families to make. So I don't see a problem with existing law. And then I do feel that we put a lot of very complex decision-making and balancing on our school personnel right now, our teachers, our administrators, all of them, to also ask them to review syllabi, to decide whether to award credit because the same criteria is used for the one thing and another, seems to me to lead to great difficulties in adding to the tasks in a way that is not going to advance the core mission of our public schools, which is to teach history and math and reading and science to prepare our kids for the modern world. I do think that after-school programs and all kinds of religious instructions are a lovely idea and commend people that move that forward. But I don't think this is something that our public schools should be involved with in this way. So I can't support your bill. But I also very much respect the desire for the ability to reach out and give ethical and religious instruction, and hope that after the after-school programs that many organizations have would be a vehicle to do that.
Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very familiar with the Release Time program, having participated myself as a child up through middle school. Didn't do it in high school because my elective was playing piano for the choir because I needed a pianist. But having said that, even my mom, when she retired from teaching in the juvenile hall, went and taught in the Release Time. So I'm very familiar with what it does. And I think it does serve a valuable part in the schools that participate. I will say that for us, we were in a small community, and there's 3 blocks of the Protestant church, 4 blocks of the Catholic church. We walked in groups, our respective places came back. And at a time when we find ourselves worried about bullying and other things in schools, we weren't as aware or concerned about it then. Certainly, it's nothing new. But I think when we have other avenues of teaching how to live in society, and certainly that comes from what they're teaching in Release Time, I think that is helpful. But I have a few questions I would ask through the chair, if you don't mind, of the author, just to clarify the things that I've heard, because there's been a lot of discussion and I don't want to get away from some of these core points. So, first of all, a school district may or may not, it's elective whether or not they allow this, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And a parent or guardian may or may not elect, and if they do elect to, they have to do written permission.
That's correct. It's safeguard, as well as the school board has to give their approval. So there are lines of defense for anybody who's worried about that. I think parents can make good decisions for their children, and I think I have a lot of confidence in our school boards too.
If a student thinks their parents are old-fashioned and they don't want to do it, do they have a choice not to go?
Yeah, I would say they probably do, but it all depends how old-fashioned the parents are, I guess. So.
All right, and then the liability is transferred from the school to the hosting institution?
Correct.
Doesn't diminish academic training?
None at all.
We're already giving elective credit for from students that are transferred from parochial school to public schools.
Yes.
So there's precedent that way. It doesn't impact the ADA.
Does not impact the ADA.
You know, I just see value to the program, and I understand that it means if you had a large concentration of Muslims, they could also have that, and we may not some people may not like that. But the reality is, our public educational system is a near monopoly. And there are a lot of things taught in there that some Christians don't like, some Muslims don't like, you name the religion, they don't like it. And particularly, they don't like a lot of the comparative religions being taught when they're trying to train their child a particular way. And so this gives another avenue to help add weight and influence on the things that they do believe in without compromising what is mandated by the state or allowed by the local school district to choose. So I don't see that this steps on any rights. The courts have evidently weighed in, at least on release time and limiting the time that it can be, but not saying it's illegal. So I think that addresses the church and state. So it really comes down to, are we going to allow credit for this or not? The kids that did it in our area, there was a study hall that they were basically giving up to go do this. So I don't see that, passing notes and maybe studying, most of them weren't in the school I went to, versus getting some training that may have value in life. It seems to me this is a no-brainer, and I support what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Huff. Wise man.
Senator Block.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I apologize, Senator Morell, for being gone for a half hour of the presentation. I had a 10 to 10:30 meeting that had been long scheduled, and I had to go. I had this on my TV. I have to admit, because I was in a meeting, I wasn't listening to all of it. So if I missed something, I do apologize for that. You've been to my office, though, to talk about this, so I do feel I've been fairly well briefed. And I want to thank you for that. You've gone way above and beyond the call of duty on this bill to make sure that from what I've heard, other members are comfortable with it. As I told you in my office, I had concerns, and
we tried.
And you did. You addressed some of those concerns, and I agree with Senator Huff that the issue is credit. I mean, the release time is not an issue in my mind. When the state gives credit for coursework, the state is certifying that this student has gained certain skills and abilities from this course. They're giving the student a diploma partially based on this work. Now, to me, if the state is going to certify that by giving credit, unlike just plain release time, then the state has to go in and evaluate the coursework, because how can the state certify if they don't evaluate the coursework? They have to go in and evaluate the instructor, because how can they certify if they don't evaluate the instructor? To me, it's not so much a concern about the school district and the state, but a concern about religious freedom. I don't want the state going in and evaluating instruction by a religious institution. I don't want the state telling priest, pastor, rabbi, whatever it might be, that he or she or whoever they choose to teach a course isn't qualified, because I don't think the state knows as much as the person in that particular religious denomination who might be qualified to teach about that religion or that morality. So to me, there is this entanglement that I just can't get beyond, the entanglement between church and state that is bad for state, but it's even worse for church. And I think that's what our founding fathers hoped to avoid. So I'm happy to hear your responses to this.
I'd like to give that response. Thank you for that. A couple of things. The language in section, and I'm quoting a code, 53332, that prohibits a school district from establishing a test for religious content is designed to protect the district, including teachers, from any entanglement issues under the Establishment Clause by prohibiting the direct evaluation of the curriculum content. In the other state, school districts cooperate with private schools that takes on the responsibility of evaluating the content, meaning, the private school teaches core curriculum, religious classes, but yet they accept those things at the public school. And so it takes on the responsibility of evaluating that content course to meet its proper academic standards. This provides a mechanism for a test of the curriculum while avoiding any entanglement issues or liability. But also, I carry my little constitution around once in a while. Just let me read Article number 1. It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Remember, that's like a porous relationship. What it means is the state cannot tell, the government can't tell the citizens what to do, but the citizens have always had the ability to tell the state what to do. And if you read on further why this is correct in plain English, it says the same thing about our speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, if you believe in a freedom of press, freedom of speech, then we, according to the language in the First Amendment, we must believe in the freedom of religion. It's just that government can't insert their will upon us, but we have every right to be able to do that according to that and according to the code. And then again, it was tested in the Supreme Court and 2 other cases on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals and in the 10th Circuit Appeals where this has been tested, and it was found not to cross over those lines, especially when the students go off campus.
So are you saying the state cannot evaluate the instruction?
Yeah, the state can evaluate it based on secular criteria. So for instance, things like teaching hours, writing skills, anything like that. The only thing that the state is restricted by the courts on is evaluating the religious nature of the content. So the very thing you brought up, the courts would agree with you, and they said that's the one area that the school district can't get involved with, is just the religious nature of the content. In terms of teaching standards, the state has full authority.
So the religious nature of the content, if let's say the content is that evolution did not occur, that the world was created in 7 days, is that religious content or is that education content? And if the state gives credit for teaching that evolution is false, then is the state certifying that that is fact? I mean, that's what bothers me.
The way to look at, great question, Senator, the way to look at it is the actual teaching standards is what's getting evaluated. So it would be like, amount of time in reading units or amount of time coursework that's being done. Those are the standards that, where this has been in place, have been used by the school districts to evaluate the credit. And that's where the line is, that the content nature is not supposed to be evaluated.
So the state then would be required to give credit for lessons that say that evolution is false, that the world was created in 7 days. The state couldn't look into that.
The school, right, the state should not look into religious content.
Yeah, that to me is a problem. Giving credit for things that educators in this state, so if let's say a particular religion feels, let's say, it doesn't have to be a religion, and based on this, I think, bill, I think you could have the Wiccans have a school for witches, those who believe that all gods are false idols, that all religion is false. Kids would get credit for taking courses in Wiccan as long as the standards were met? I mean, is that what you're saying?
If it's improving reading, one of the things that I also wanted to address that went back to one of the Senator Huff's comments was there has been studies in a number of states, including some recent studies out of Utah. The Journal of Social Work has done research on this. And one of the things that's been very consistent in the literature about release time is that there is a marked academic improvement in the performance of students.
That really avoids the question. Now, let's say there are extreme sects, as we know, that are tremendously homophobic and sexist, that would preach during their time, and would teach, not preach, would teach during their time that women are inferior to men, that all LGBT community members are going to go to hell. Teaching something like that, would students get credit for learning that or no?
Let me answer that. Here's the thing. Remember, a couple of the firewalls or layers of protection to protect our students. We remember, it's supposed to be we the people. So we're going to rely on those parents to use good judgment. But in case if you need another firewall, we have a school board. So that's why there's checks and balances to protect our students. And so the questions you're asking, we could go from WICA to something else all day. I think most of the school districts we have where this is being taught, if something weird like that was to happen, I think you're going to have complaints from the school board, or from the parents to the teachers and the teachers and the school board. You know, we are supposed to be a self-governing people, and I do think those lines of protection is we got to put the parents are responsible. I think they'll make a good choice for their kids, as well as the school boards of backup, check and balance.
Last time I'll comment, and
No.
I'm happy to have this conversation. It's really a continuation of the conversation we had in my office. I worry particularly about a community where the whole community is maybe out of step with state standards, where there is a community that is, where the school board members would probably agree with certain things we've talked about already.
Off the top, we do have 38 million people, but is there any that you know of in California as of right now? Excluding San Diego, but just kidding.
No, I don't, but I do know when we saw the move to vouchers back in the 70s, we did have Wiccan churches apply to become voucher eligible, and that concerned me.
And that religion's pretty dead. I mean, I've never met a Wicca, and I get around.
Senator Morrell, may I speak to Senator Blocks?
It's up to the chair.
Please, hang on, please.
I'm sorry.
Through the chair. Thank you. Would you like to respond to Senator Block? Please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I've done some research because I knew this question would come up. And from what I have discerned in my research throughout many of the Southern California school districts, there are no school districts today that allow teaching of Wiccas, witchcraft, warlocks. However, under equal access, it cannot be denied if it's student initiated and if they have a sponsor. And today, in the Temecula Unified School District, the students there do have a Witches and Witcher Club at lunchtime.
And if I can just find this, then I'm done. The club is okay. I may disagree with what the club stands for, what they do, but that's okay. It's a club. It's when you give credit for the work. That is the state certifying that this is valuable information for students to get a diploma and then to go into the workplace. That is the key to me, the credit. I understand there are clubs. That to me is different. But thank you. Thank you, Senator Morrell.
Yeah, and thank you. And just as a last comment, good questions, but this program has many more benefits for our students, many more upsides than downsides, though, that we should be concerned. So if you think about that as you consider your vote, do you want to ask, did you have any?
Please, Senator Morrell, we have other questions to you. Senator Vidak and then Senator Monning. So take a second.
Most of my questions have been answered, and I think Senator Huff had some great questions, and that kind of hit everything. And Marty, you had some great questions, but I think
Marty.
you're my friend.
Okay, yeah.
Excuse me, Senator Block. But again, I think the question's been answered. Church and state, this is already legal, and we're just expanding the time. Study hall, I don't know, is probably you get credit for a study hall, but yet there may not be a lot of studies going on. I do believe in local control, and I do believe in the school boards and the board members, and so I'll be supporting this, and I think it's a great bill.
Thank you. Senator Monning.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and for the opportunity to go a second time. And just, it was something raised by Senator Huff.
An easy question?
You'll be the judge of that. But so here's the question. You say this would ultimately be in the province of an elected school board. So what if I'm a parent in a school district, the school board decides not to approve or support this release time, and I feel that my right to this release time, because the state has approved passage of your law, there'll be litigation from families when a particular school board decides it's not going to support this. Have you done any estimate of the amount of litigation that establishment of expanded release time with paid ADA money for credits?
No, but, that could work both ways. For years, people have, in 1962, when prayer was taken out of school, there was litigation there, but, these things are not typically litigated. Somehow the faith community has not been active in doing those types of things, but that's another question that I think, that we could.
Well, how do you protect the parent's right or the child's right if this law, if this becomes law, when a school district denies them the right?
Then
they have to move to another school district?
Perhaps they do, yeah.
What if they don't have the means to move?
Well, then unfortunately, I think the kids will lose out, but the parents can always advocate. They can get like-minded people to attend those school board meetings, and as Ronald Reagan said, they can put pressure on the people, right?
The examples, Senator Block raised, I think, very legitimate questions. He used some extremes for examples, but how do you respond to if there's teaching by a particular religious organization that gay marriage is sinful when our U.S. Supreme Court has recognized the legal right?
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of the release time that I know of, what it seems like, a lot of what they want to compromise or teach the kids is history. The Old Testament studied a lot, of course, the New Testament, the life of Christ, but also the book of Proverbs, which, I think anybody, secular or non-secular, that's the book of wisdom and virtue. And so, a lot of studies are on those things, but that would be, again, the school board would have to make a decision on that they would probably discontinue that program. So again, you have a safeguard there to protect.
But you have taxpayer money being used to review the content of the curriculum in that elective course. So anyway, I appreciate the engagement here.
Yeah, and
when we go much longer, we'll be approaching the Scopes monkey trial in the scope of debate. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I just have a couple comments here. Why is the existing law a problem for you?
Just because we want these students to be able to get credit for these elective classes. That's the only thing we want, and we do not believe 4 hours a month is enough because
it's 4 days a month.
4 days a month.
4 days a month. That's 1/5. 20%, it is, in code. In code, it's 4 days a month. So, I mean, so how many days do you want? What's the cap?
A lot of these elective courses, as you know, are 5 days a week.
Right. So is that what you want, 5 days a week?
No, make me an offer.
No. I'm not, no, I mean, so that's one of the issues is the lack of a cap.
Yeah, you know what, I'd like to extend it to 10 to 12 school days a month, if that would be possible. But I'm open for an amendment because I believe in this. If we could start here and then prove to this body how good of the program and track the results, and I will do that for you, Senator Lieu.
Oh, okay, so that's one of my issues about the cap or no cap. The other issue that I have is similar to what Senator Block has about credit. And then, when the state gives credit, it needs to have the authority of giving that credit. And yet, we don't have the right to interfere with religious ideologies, whatever it happens to be. So, I mean, for those two, just basically, those two concerns that I have, and the blurring, the coziness between church and state, what we talked about, and I do appreciate your coming to the office. I mean, it was really, you're a huge advocate for this, and I understand where your heart is and where you want to see and you're concerned about the well-being of all of our young people and their moral development. But, you know, I really feel very uncomfortable because it is so open-ended, this bill. And it doesn't, you know, for me, I was shocked that we allow 4 days, 20% of a week for such instruction. So, you know, regardless of credit or not credit, I was just I was just shocked. So, you know, I do have a problem with the bill, and I understand we could talk about it, and you were agreeable to work it out, et cetera, but I don't want to spend the time. We have spent a lot of time just talking about the bill today, trying to work out the concerns we have, or I have, with this bill and try to massage it to get to a point where we can pass it out today.
Well, can we massage it to a point where we keep that 4 days then in the amendment? Would you go for that? That seems to satisfy, at least listening to you, that's what I hear you saying. If we hold the bill, then we can work on the bill. You know, we have time for more hearings. Do we have time for more hearings? We don't have to hear the whole bill, but if we want to do amendments to the bill. Would you give me an amendment to suggest an amendment today?
Well, I don't want to just do this on the fly. I mean, I'd rather have a more, you know, we could just bring it back for a vote if we can agree to some of the issues that we're talking about. But, you know, I still am uncomfortable about that credit stuff, and that's what you really want. So, you know.
But we're flexible like Donald Trump.
So do you want, okay, so the question is that would you like a vote, or would you like us to hold the bill? Because the bill has been moved.
I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. For $400, I'll take can I take a vote, and then if not, get reconsideration, have it reconsidered?
Of course.
Well, then let's take a vote and go for it.
Okay.
Want me to close?
Please close.
Thank you very much, by the way, for your patience. It has been a good discussion. Thank you guys, everybody, Senator Monning. Yeah, you know, one of the comments, I'm just going to make two comments here on the underprivileged. You know, a lot of the working parents they don't have the means to be able to pick their kids up and do this thing. So it really does serve these underprivileged areas, which I think is just a wonderful thing. And, you know, the ancients, whether it was Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates, Virgil or Cicero, and even modern-day C.S. Lewis, believe the purpose of education is to integrate the intellect together with the soul, believing that we all have a soul. And I think this is a wonderful thing that it does. And the reason those aren't my thoughts, I try to stand on the shoulders of people that are wiser than myself, which is not a hard thing to do. But the thing is that the modern day source of education, I think one of the reasons our test scores have dropped so much is we've neglected what some of the people wiser than myself, whether the philosophers or the theologians or some of the great political minds, believed in this type of thing. Because again, what makes a person high and noble is how many virtues they can instill in their life, and that makes for a good society. So with that, I would appreciate your aye vote, and thank you very much for allowing this much time. It's a good discussion, Senator Lieu.
Thank you very much. Okay, the bill has been moved. Let's call the roll.
This is item 13, SB 1457. Do pass to the floor. Lieu?
No.
Lieu, no. Block? No. Block, no. Hancock? No. Hancock, no. Huff? Aye. Huff, aye. Leyva? Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Monning? No. Monning, no. Pan? Vidak?
Aye.
Vidak, aye. That's 3-4.
3-4. We'll leave the roll open. We have some absent members.
We do have some absent members, and then if it doesn't go, reconsideration, plenty of time.
Please.
To do that.
Is there any objection to reconsideration?